Welcome into WagerTalk TV. I am Drew Martin, joined by Rob Vino and Tony Finn of WagerTalk.com as we're talking early Saturday college football here. Oklahoma and Nebraska kicking us off. Robbie, coming to you first. Minus 11.5. That's the Oklahoma Sooners as the road favorite. 67 being the total. What are you thinking in Lincoln, Nebraska on Saturday, Robbie?
Well, I think 2020 hindsight is always the best, right, Drew? Because it seems that the money is piled in on the fired coach theory. Just go ahead and back the team who just fired their coach because they're going to respond. I'm not so sure. It doesn't work every time. Certainly it has worked multiple times in the past. Mickey Joseph takes over as the interim here, ex-Nebraska quarterback. So they stay home again with the head coach. Wide receiver coach just hired this year. So all of a sudden, boom, 3 games in, he becomes the head coach. Part of the LSU staff that won the 2019 NCAA championship. Does the coaching change help or hurt? I really don't know. I'll say this. It's a rivalry game that's been revived the last few years. And certainly Nebraska emotionally will be into this. I guess my question is whether or not they're good enough at this point, Drew. That defense last week against Georgia Southern, air raid offense, was horrific. They couldn't cover anybody. They couldn't tackle anybody. And this is a team, Georgia Southern, that was playing option offense last year. Mm-hmm. Drastic switch over to air raid. And all of a sudden, they're just lighting Nebraska up. So I don't know. Frost's job has been on the line for a while. The team never responded. Maybe they didn't like him. Who knows? I'm not inside the program, but I just don't know which way to go with this fired coach theory in this game. Offensive coordinator for Oklahoma, Jeff Lebby, much like Robert and I, he's a master of both forms of spread. He'll go run-oriented spread, power spread, which he had under Lane Kiffin last year. And he's reunited here. He's going to go. He went air raid with Josh Heupel, and he's reunited with Dylan Gabriel. So we'll see if the best is yet to come for this Oklahoma offense. I think that maybe the points are just a little bit too big here, Drew. That's the best I can come up with. Even though I think Oklahoma is the superior team, because I don't think Nebraska is really all that good defensively. Nebraska's won turnover margin twice this year by 2 turnovers and lost both of those games. Somehow they won the turnover margin against Northwestern by 2, managed to screw that up. Then last week against Georgia Southern, they're +2 in the turnover column. They managed to screw that up. So they just have a ton of issues. They really resort to the defensive side. I think Oklahoma, for the most part, is untested as well. When you're playing UTEP and Kent, that's not great. So I would say, if I had to and I didn't play the game, I would probably try Nebraska here. I see there's a push in the total, which might make sense if Nebraska continues to let receivers run free and don't tackle anybody. You could probably get an over here, but I'll probably look to Nebraska to maybe respond one time and keep it close here with Oklahoma. Certainly, they kept it close last year. Remember real quick that last year Spencer Rattler played in this game. It wasn't Caleb Williams. He hadn't started for OU yet. And Nebraska looked pretty good in that one. So rivalry game, little emotion, double-digit points. Guess we'll side with Nebraska slightly.
And Tony, coming to you next, what are you thinking here? Sooners and Cornhuskers.
Well, I agree with a lot of what Rob just said. It's difficult. You eventually believe that a team that loses close game after close game after close game, that some form of or at least positive regression is going to come your way. And it never did for Scott Frost. In interviews before the season started this winter, you heard him say, you could hear the passion and the desire and the want in his voice. He sincerely appreciated being offered this position after UCF, and he desperately wanted to succeed. But it's a different animal there than it was at, I don't want to call it mid-major, but it's just a different animal recruiting in Nebraska, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And some of the guys, listen, he had plenty of talent. He didn't recruit as well as some prior coaches, but at least as good as the last couple in Nebraska. They've never been successful in the Big Ten. This team can score. They can score. To beat Oklahoma, though, I believe, even with a defensive-minded new first-year coach, I believe you have to be much more defensive than Nebraska is. And I know this is a fairly big number. When I first saw this number before these games were played on Saturday, before Nebraska lost again and Oklahoma won, I saw some people thought this game was going to be an 8 or 9 or 10 right in that area. And then, of course, the coaching change and et cetera, et cetera. But long story short, this Nebraska defense is just not good enough to even stop Dylan Gabriel and who he is as a first-year UCF transfer. This team is still 25th, in rushing offense, and that's how you're going to beat Nebraska. If you can run the ball and score in the same breath, then I don't see how Nebraska stays within a couple, 3 touchdowns unless this team is extremely motivated, or as Rob described, as this being one of those situations where talent doesn't necessarily win, where emotion and fortune rule the day. I would be opposite of Rob here. I would be on the side of Oklahoma, say winning by 20 plus.
All right, maybe a little boomer sooner there. Tony Finn, Rob Vino, check them both out, WagerTalk.com. And guys, a good day to do so. That's Mondays. $9 Mondays is what we call it. All plays, all handicappers discounted to just $9. Check it out, WagerTalk.com.